Is the light proper in the room?
All, all good, ma'am. A very good morning to all our viewers today. Today we have with us a very distinguished professional. She has been in consulting, she has been in education, and now she's an author too. Let us all welcome Professor Sapna Narula, the Dean of Management School of Business, Nalanda University, and the author of Sustainable Food Value Chain Development. Welcome, ma'am. How are you doing today?
In this show.
Pleasure, ma'am. Ma'am, yourself and Dr. Raj have been in the space of sustainable development for more than a decade as educationists and practitioners. How has the journey been, and what did you all want to change when you all joined this?
Can you hear me?
Ma'am, can you hear me? Hello? Ma'am, can you hear me?
Harsha, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you. I asked you the question, yourself and Dr.
Yes, I can
Raj.
hear you. Hear you, Harsha.
Okay, okay,
Yes, yes, I
perfect.
can hear.
So, did you get my question?
Yeah, I got your question, Harsha. In fact, we have been in this space for sustainable development. We have been working together, collaborated on various projects, and since your question is very apt, like what has changed, and how do you think that it is going to change in near future? In fact, Harsha, when 15 years back we entered into this space, there was no focus on sustainability, whether it was the corporates or the NGOs. The awareness was very limited, and to a niche community that they knew about SDGs or sustainable development. But as it has progressed along, now you see that all the corporates, they have full-fledged sustainability departments in their organizations, even right from the leadership to the bottom level. Everyone is aware about sustainability. The mindset of the organization has changed. And if I talk about NGOs, there are a lot of NGOs in this space now, a lot of consultancy organizations who are assisting the institutions and policy makers. And this has happened due to a lot of national and global push towards the agenda. So as I see it now, the space has completely revolutionized. Everyone has understood that sustainability is the way of life. Sustainability is, it's not only the economic sustainability or economic resilience which matters, but also the environmental and social resilience which matters for all the stakeholders, communities, or policymakers, or consumers, etc. So this is what has changed in this space. And you will also find that since you are also working in this space, you would know that lot of general population is now aware that how they should be living their way of life. So whether it is water or waste or air pollution, now we are bearing the brunt. There were people long back, 2 decades back, who ignored the climate change agenda, but now they are bearing the brunt. If whether it is the New Delhi or Chennai or Australia or US, it is now the health of the population at stake, and there is more awareness amongst the general public about whether they are consuming the right amount of nutritious food, whether they are consuming the safe and quality water. So that is what has changed, and consumer choices has also impacted the corporate agenda. So it's not only, the pressure is not only coming from consumers, but also from the investors who have incorporated ESG concerns into their investment. Policymakers are also pushing through more stricter regulatory laws. So to start with, I think this has changed, and I hope you would agree with me.
Yes, ma'am. Totally. Now that most of the corporates have their sustainable departments and CSR departments separate, and now foraying in ESG, so the general population is definitely far more aware than what it was earlier. Um, my next question to you is: what was the inspiration behind authoring the Sustainable Food Value Chain Development book? What was the
Thank you,
inspiration?
Harsha. Very interesting question. In fact, I have been working with farmers for last 25 years. Ever since I graduated, yeah. So ever since I graduated, I have been working with the farmers. So farmers occupy a very close space in my heart, and trying to find out what have been the impacts of climate change on the farming communities, how they are changing climate and resource efficiency concerns. So this topic has always been close to my heart, and Dr. SP Raj and me were already working with the journal called Journal of Agribusiness in Developing and Emerging Economies. So it starts back from then, and then we organized 2 conferences as well, international conference on agribusiness in emerging economies. And when there was a lot of deliberation in the conferences, where um, uh, 20 odd universities and many sponsors, and so this came out of the deliberations that there is no such documentation of sustainable food value chains. So there is a missing link between the producer and the consumer. So how do we join it? And there are a lot of case studies happening here and there. For example, if we talk about Northeast India or Sri Lanka or Nepal or Bhutan, there are a lot of case studies that have not been documented. And many case studies were presented in those conferences as well. So this was the need of the hour. We thought that we will fulfill this gap by and this has been compiled into an Yes, Harsha.
Yes, ma'am.
Shoot. Yeah.
I'm sorry I lost you in the middle for a second. When I see the book is bifurcated in four headings, would you like to share more about its flow of the book?
Yes. Yes, Harsha. The book has been organized into four sections. The very first one is, resource efficiency and circular economy across the supply chain, food supply chains. And second is technology and innovation in food value chains. Third is about climate change concerns, and the fourth one talks about market institutions and trade. That is how we can link our farmers to markets where farmers produce the food that is demanded by the consumers internationally, in the domestic field. So the book has documented various case studies. Authors from all across the globe have contributed to this volume. They come from Africa, they come from Estonia, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, and most of them are from India, where they have covered various regions, and they have covered lot of commodities, whether it is the millets or the chickpea or fish or poultry or milk. So I think this is a holistic approach that we have taken in a sustainable food value chain. So when we start with the resource efficiency and circular economy concerns, there are topics such as how do we standardize the fish and seafood supply chains, and there are topics about food loss and waste, and how this waste could be converted into various byproducts, or into energy, or how food valorization can be done, and how different organizations can be linked through industrial symbiosis. And the next section talks about the climate change concerns, where there are case studies of Northeast India and Nepal, that how climate farmers are suffering, small and marginal farmers are suffering. Let me also add in here that this book is all about small and marginal farmers, and how they are suffering in light of changing climate and disasters that this planet has seen in last decade. So this section mostly talks about these vulnerable regions, especially Himalayan region, the northeast India, Nepal, and how farmers are coping with new technologies. So one of the interesting case study written by a few authors in Nepal is about tunnel farming. So how it helps farmers to cope with the changing climate. Then we move on to the third section, and where there are cases about non-timber forest product value chains, and there is a group of Australian authors who have written about agribusiness food supply chains, and they have linked it with the all the management theories, etc. So that is a very good framework they have provided for agribusiness and food value chains. And then we talk about consumer choices, how the consumption patterns have changed in India over a period of time. Authors from Niti Aayog have discussed this, that what we used to consume earlier and how we are consuming now, whether we are consuming more nutritious food, or have we diversified. So this is a pattern that has changed, and now the entire policymakers and stakeholders need to work in this direction. And one more aspect that has been covered is that of market competitiveness. And market competitiveness means how we can make our food supply chains quite competitive in the global markets. Government has got lot of schemes right now for example, enam, electronic national agricultural market for farmers, and digitalization of agriculture has already happened during last 10 to 15 years. And all other schemes have been covered very well in this chapter by various authors. And it's not only the Indian policies and schemes, but also the policies that are changing in the developing countries context in the entire South Asia. These have also been very well covered. So this book overall, it's a holistic document that provides you with a variety of food and commodity value chains insights, and what needs to be done. And at the end of every section, there are brief recommendations that have been listed out for people to take actions, for the concerned people to take action. There is a report in 2021 that has clearly highlighted that after COVID-19, hunger and nutrition scenario is going to change. Food is becoming very costlier, and there are more hungry people in the underdeveloped regions of the world. So I think this is very timely book, where we have highlighted these aspects and how we can take action in this regard to move forward.
That's a very interesting perspective, ma'am. For it has covered almost all the sections that are required for all of us to know. Now, we are consumers. How can we play an active role to promote a sustainable value chain in food systems?
Yeah, Harsha, consumer is a very powerful tool in the entire gamut. As consumers, we can influence the strategies of food companies. We can also help our farmers. So through sustainable choices, that goal number 12, sustainable consumption and production, when we talk about um, uh, sustainable consumer choices, so through consumer choices, we can reject the unsustainable products, undernutritious products which are not safe and healthy. So number one is that I think it's our responsibility to check that whatever food that we are consuming, what impact it has on the environment, its packaging, or if it is processed, what has gone into its making, and how it has impacted the environment through life cycle analysis. I know as a consumer it's very difficult for us to analyze everything before we eat food, but it's nowadays companies are taking actions to produce carbon neutral brands. For example, I know one company which is bringing a chocolate brand which is truly carbon neutral. So by having sustainable choices, number one, that we should know that we should trace back the history of this food that is there on our plate. That no child labor is involved, that the supply chain is safe, and the product is standardized. And I know that a lot of population in developing and emerging economies cannot afford such standardized products because they are costlier, and there is a whole lot of willingness to pay angle to it, because we first we would want to fill our we want to consume food, and later we will think about whether it was organic or not. So by doing so, by making sustainable choices, we can lower down the impact on the environment. This is our individual social waste food, which is a very simple thing. It's not some scientific, but still, we should not waste food at all. We should use it at all. Everyone has to see across the family or in office space or in society, that no food is wasted. In India, food is wasted across the supply chain at the producer level. And this is something that that will help us reduce the food wastage. Third is that we have to support farmers. As consumers, we have to pick up the products which have been prepared by small and marginal farmers, so that we know that we are contributing to their livelihoods. So entire resource efficiency and what food to pick up. Right now government is putting a lot of emphasis on the millets. So we all know that millets are healthier to eat. Traditionally we know that, right? So during a lot of fasting days in Hindu religion, we follow this millet food and all, because it's more healthier. So I think by diversifying our food habits, and looking into what is sustainable and not what is not sustainable, I think government and corporates can play a lot of role in making information and awareness clear to the consumers. For example, food labels, they might help consumer to know whether my food is safe and healthy or not. And similarly, environmental impacts. So we are also professing the users labels. So on every food there must be an eco label. There are ways companies are calculating their footprint across the life cycle of the food. So I think by doing so, we can always promote sustainable consumption of food.
Very well said, ma'am. I hope there are more organic products in the market now. And now, also the book, when we come across it, there are so many case studies. Like you've just mentioned
Yeah.
some of them. Which are those case studies that we in India can adapt and our farmers can benefit out of it? Any of those that you would like to share with us for sustainable farming?
Yeah. So there are a lot of cases from India itself that we have documented here. So we talk about new technologies, for example, tunnel farming, or and there is a lot of indigenous knowledge that resides. Food valorization practices that have been covered by a group of authors in Estonia. Those practices can be very well followed in India because of the food loss and waste concerns. And then resource efficiency and circularity that has been discussed by Dr. Zinaida Fadiva and all, that can be implemented. Tunnel farming, there are already a lot of case studies that are being there in India. But yes, each country has something to learn from the others. So while India can learn about best practices of the other countries, other countries can learn. For example, Nepal, Bhutan, they can learn a lot from India. So whether it is the policy or the technology or the finance or innovation, so these are some of the best practices that have been listed that can be knowledge exchange can happen.
Thanks, ma'am. Tunnel farming is something that we would all like to know more, but I'm sure it's going to benefit our farmers a lot. Now, as you mentioned, that each country has something to learn from the others. Governments across the globe play a very significant
Yes.
role in developing the farmers' policy, which, according to you, have been done of favorable ones, or the favorable ones that could be introduced in our country. which of those policies are there internationally and they could be introduced in our
Yeah,
country?
lot of initiatives to yeah. So I think when you compare other countries and India, our food value chains are underdeveloped. Let us understand that where we are coming from. Their farming size is very small. Their farming size is very large, right? And in India there are a lot of small and marginal farmers, so we cannot simply emulate those policies. There are various technologies that can be adopted at the Indian level. In fact, our food FPO schemes, where small farmer producer organizations have been formed at each and every village level. And right now, there are many FPOs working out of each and every state, that government is funding them as well to increase the farm size. What happens is that in a big farm size, operations become easier, economies of scale are there, so the cost gets you know distributed. But in a case of small and marginal farmers, it becomes very difficult for farmers to do collective farming and bring them all under one umbrella. So but if we are able to do that, we are able to reduce the cost of operations, and we can increase the farmers income. So FPOs is one such scheme that we have adopted at the Indian level, that can help. Your question, I know, was a little different, but I'm not professing that we should simply emulate the models of the West. Their
Yeah,
problems are different than our problems right now.
yeah.
I think it is very contextual, that we adopt schemes that can be used here. But yes, from the West we can actually see that what they are doing, as far as logistics is concerned. When you see the developed country chains, they are all refrigerated, and they have retail outlets, and food farm to fork is very organized. Whereas in India, you will find that a lot of wastage will happen. So all those post harvest technologies that they have adopted, the logistics can be upgraded in India as well, and we are taking doing some efforts to move in that direction. But we have we still have to do a lot in this context. So upgradation of logistics is one. Second is post harvest losses, food valorization, and promoting the processed food. Now that diversifying the food, millets, etc., that can be done. There are various technologies that we can adopt from developed countries context in India.
Okay. Very well said, ma'am. We have a lot of comments on LinkedIn. Somehow this is not being shown over here, but I would definitely read it out as we go along. So, most of the food that comes to us is in a packaging. Food in itself can be circular unless it is injected with chemicals. You see, we still have places
Hmm.
where they still inject chemicals, but the food packaging may not be. So,
Hmm.
how can we address this? Because anywhere we go and take organic food, also, it is always in a plastic bag, and sometimes it is not mentioned the grade of the bag as well. So, we still knowingly and unknowingly contribute to the carbon footprint. So, how can we address this?
Yeah, so very very relevant question, Harsha, that you have asked. On one hand, the consumption of processed food is increasing, in India and in other developing countries. And whether it is the fruit juices, or processed food, or ready to eat food, they all come in unsustainable packaging. So where it is packed at the corporate end. So I think we all, consumer has hardly any choice than to buy the food or buy or accept that packaging. So number one is that we have to see that corporates take action. Government also bans these types of packaging, and a lot of innovative packaging has come into this space. For example, I know of a rice, ready to eat rice variety, which comes in a rice mesh. So it's packed, like it's not in a plastic. You just dissolve it and hot water, and the packaging gets dissolved, right? So these type of innovation are needed in this space. If bamboo is one, my favorite, that I would say that I would urge all the corporates to go for bamboo related products, and whether it is spoon or forks that they provide along with the food, so that can be done. So we have to through these measures. So I think corporates and policymakers have a lot of role to play in this. Consumers have a less role, except the choices that they make. We may reject that, but we don't have any option. So everyone is using that. So yeah.
Yeah, so I hope that the message goes about the bamboo packaging and the rice packaging. So I hope it reaches to the right ears. Now, we are an education institution, and you are an academician, an author, and a practitioner. You may have definitely noticed the knowledge gaps that are prevalent in the community, in the corporates, and in the students that you have interacted with. How can we as an institute bridge this, and what kind of course modules shall we introduce?
Yeah, so I think on this side we can introduce a course module on sustainable consumption and production,
Yeah.
where we can educate our consumers and others, which is related to SDG 12 and has a clear relevance. Even food waste and management. This is something related to consumers that we can introduce to start with. These are the modules that may be very beneficial, and I'm sure there will be a lot of takers.
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
There will be a lot of takers for this short term module. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We will definitely work towards it after the session to introduce. It has been wonderful interacting with you and learning so much in such a short span of time that you have shared with us. Would you like to share a message to all our viewers watching this right now, or who may watch the recorded session tomorrow?
Yeah, so Harsha, my message to all the viewers is that number one, don't waste food. Food is very precious. Our farmers are, working day and night to see that this food reaches in your hands. So, number one, and this message is especially for the young generation. I know that the older generation, they never used to waste food. So this is for the younger generation, and I would like them to see, they be aware and educated about what you are eating, be conscious about what you are eating, and where it has come from. The issue of traceability is very important, and eat healthy and safe food, be healthy, and also see the environmental impact of all the products that you are eating. So if you demand such things, I'm sure various corporates and policymakers will also be bound to take action. So these are the small messages that I would like to give to the viewers.
Wonderful, ma'am. I would like to read out some of the relevant messages that came on LinkedIn. Somehow it doesn't allow it to show. So this one is from Dr. Lopa Mundra. She's congratulating you for the book. Then we have from Dr.
Hmm.
Ajay Sharma. Going vegetarian will help, as non-vegetarian food consumes a lot of resources.
Right.
Hydroponic farming for leafy vegetable and terrace farming for regional conditions must be adopted through media awareness.
Mm.
Then we have Mr. Pavan saying, welcome, it's a good initiative. And
Mm.
yeah, these are some of the good comments I would like to share with you. And thank you for your warm presence. It has always been a pleasure interacting with you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Harsha, for having me on your show. I really admire all the good work that you are doing and how you are running the institute, and you are making and impacting the lives of younger generation. So keep doing good work, and I thank all the viewers also for their time and having a look at the interview. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody, for joining the show. Thank you.